Okay, so let's jump right into this. We've all been there, right? Staring at a map, trying to figure out the absolute best way to get from point A to point B. It seems like it should be straightforward, but sometimes there's a puzzle hiding in plain sight.
You see your start point, you see the finish line. All you have to do is connect the dots. But what if the map isn't just showing you the way? What if it's actually designed to trick you? And that, right there, is the real game. The map itself is your opponent. It uses these little, sneaky tricks to make long paths look short and simple routes seem way more complicated than they are. To beat it, we can't just look. We need a strategy.
So here it is, the first and honestly the most common trap, mixed up units. See, the map makers will just throw kilometers and meters onto the same map, kind of hoping you'll get all tangled up when you start adding things up.
This is such a simple trick, but it totally messes with your brain. You just can't add 1 to 1,000 and get anything that makes sense. It's that classic apples and oranges problem. If you don't get the units on the same page, your math is doomed from the very beginning.
So, how do we beat this? Well, we need our first tool. Let's just call it the equalizer. This is what's going to make everything consistent and clear up all that confusion before we even think about doing any math. And here's the golden rule, the most important part. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. You've got to remember that. The key is to always convert everything to the smallest unit you see on the map. In this case, that's meters. Seriously, this one step will prevent almost all of the big mistakes.
And check this out. This shows you just how powerful the equalizer is. Look at the before column. It's a total mess of decimals and different units. But once we apply our rule, that standardized distance column is beautiful. It's clean, it's consistent, and now it's ready for some actual, accurate math. Now we're finally comparing apples to apples.
Okay, so our units are standardized. That was hurdle number 1. Now let's talk about the next big mistake people make and how to avoid it with our second tool. I like to call this one the breadcrumbs. And it's all about avoiding that simple but super costly trap of doing math in your head. You know, it's so tempting to just trace the route with your finger and add up the numbers as you go. But that's exactly where tiny mistakes creep in. The trick is to get organized. Write down the path step by step, almost like you're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs to follow.
The method couldn't be simpler. First, trace the whole path you're considering. Second, list out the distance for each individual leg of that journey, using our nice standardized units, of course. And then, only as the very last step, do add them all up. All right, let's actually do it. For our first option, path 1, we go from alpha to beta. That's 400 meters. Then from beta to zeta, another 1,500 meters. We write it down, add it up, and boom, a nice clean total of 1,900 meters.
Okay, now for the other route, path 2. This one has a few more stops. We go from alpha to gamma, that's 1,200 meters, then gamma to delta, that's 300 more, and finally delta to zeta for 500 meters. Add all those breadcrumbs up, and our total is 2,000 meters. And there you have it. The result is crystal clear. Because we laid out our breadcrumbs, we can see without a doubt that path 1 at 1,900 meters is shorter. It's only by 100 meters, but it's the winner. The strategy works. So you've mastered the basics. You know how to equalize your units, you know how to lay your breadcrumbs. Now it's time for the pro move, spotting the hidden shortcuts that most people just walk right past.
A super common mistake is to assume that a path with fewer turns is automatically shorter. Take a look at this outer loop, path B. It looks simple, right? But one of its legs is a whopping 2,000 meters long. The total distance ends up being over 3 kilometers. It's a total trap.
But here's the secret sauce. Instead of just going around the edges, the pros look for shortcuts that cut through the middle. In this case, by zigzagging through these internal spots, rabbit, moose, and raccoon, we find a way faster route, and the grand total? Just 1,450 meters. That's right. By finding that little internal path, we just saved ourselves 1,600 meters of walking compared to that big, obvious outer loop. That is a huge difference, and it's exactly the kind of move that separates a beginner from a real navigator.
So, after all that, you're not just looking at a map anymore. You're looking at it with a whole new navigator's toolkit, ready to take apart any puzzle it decides to throw at you.
Let's recap the 3 big tools. Number 1, the equalizer. Always standardize your units first. Number 2, the breadcrumbs. Write everything down so you don't make a silly mistake. And number 3, the pro move. Always be hunting for those sneaky shortcuts through the middle.
With this toolkit, you are now in charge. You control the map. It doesn't control you. It's not a trickster anymore. It's just a challenge that you are totally equipped to solve. So the only real question left is, which path are you going to choose next?